The Kansas City Chiefs executed so well against the Las Vegas Raiders that they might have executed the Las Vegas Raiders. The Kansas City Chiefs executed so well against the Las Vegas Raiders, it almost wasn't fun to watch. Almost. The Kansas City Chiefs executed so well against the Las Vegas Raiders. There's almost nothing to talk about. But that is not going to stop us. The Kansas City Chiefs, the only thing I talk about on this channel, so if you're finding yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button to stick around for more. Now, we're going to go over big picture ideas, then offensive ideas, and then defensive ideas from this game. The number one is this. Keeping track of the playoff chances for the Kansas City Chiefs seems a moot point at this point, but it is not. The Chiefs are 4-3. They have 10 games to win 6 games. They are 1 game behind Denver, and they are a half game behind the Chargers. So, with that in mind, the Kansas City Chiefs have to go 6-4 over the remaining games in order to probably make the playoffs. That does not appear to be a problem for the team that we've witnessed play football on behalf of Kansas City the past 2 weeks. However, this is largely the same team that was playing football for the Kansas City Chiefs the first 2 weeks of the season. Those games did not look like these games. This is a team of 2 different poles. One, when everything is clicking, and they can absolutely rout anyone in the NFL. Number 2, when not everything is clicking, and they can still win games, but they can lose games as well. That said, looking back, what was the most embarrassing loss that the Kansas City Chiefs suffered? The Jaguars, almost undoubtedly. That was kind of a fluky loss. Yeah, they still lost. I'm not making excuses for it. But it was kind of fluky. They jumped out to that same type of lead in this game and learned their lesson from the Jaguars game and said, "No thanks, boss. We're going to go ahead and finish this one out." Absolute domination from the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs that you have seen the past 2 weeks aren't just Super Bowl contenders. They are better than the last 3 teams that made it to the Super Bowl. They are better than the last 2 teams that won the Super Bowl. This Chiefs team is the best team we have seen on the field for the Chiefs since when? Would you take the team that you saw yesterday over the team that made the playoffs last year? I would. Would you take the team that you saw yesterday over the team that won the Super Bowl in 2023? I would. Would you take the team that you saw yesterday over the team that won the Super Bowl in 2022? I would. Now, the sort of scary thing here is this team does not remind me of last year's team. It does not remind me of the 2023 team, right? This team has the capability to be much more explosive than either of those teams. This team does not remind me of the 2022 Kansas City Chiefs either. This team reminds me of the Kansas City Chiefs that we allegedly saw lose a Super Bowl to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. I don't remember Tom Brady ever playing for the Buccaneers. I don't remember that game. No one seems to have actual video evidence of that game ever taking place. So to this point, I think that Super Bowl loss, alleged loss, is still a figment of someone's imagination. But this team reminds me of the Chiefs from that season. Remember the Chiefs from that season. They could jump out to big leads, and all of a sudden it's a game. That's what happened the first time the Chiefs played the Buccaneers that season. That team had extreme explosive capability. That team had odd talent, odd places. That team, what I should say by that, is talent in areas that were like microcosms for players, right? A player who was really good at this one thing and could do this one thing. Both of these teams have those. That team was one that struggled through much of the season. Maybe not even much of the season. It was kind of like backwards from this season in that year. But struggled with their identity in that season. So the parallels may not be immediately recognizable between these two iterations of the Kansas City Chiefs, but I do believe that they are there. That is what scares me, because last year's Chiefs, up until that Super Bowl, you just kind of believed they were going to beat anybody, right? They went 15-2. They went 15-2. You kind of said, hey, this team is going to beat everybody by a last-second field goal, or by the fact that Patrick Mahomes gets the ball back with a minute, right? One of these things, however it is, they're just going to win. That team in 2020, you didn't know, right? There was a lot of weird stuff happening in weird times in games. The next thing worth talking about here is this. Along those lines, it is worth remembering that this is the first time this season the Chiefs have been above 500, and it's Week 7. This is the first time in the 2025 season that the Chiefs have been a winning football team in Week 7. Now, these, for some reason, this season feels like it's just flying along, but just come to terms with that. This is the first time. Approaching mid-season is the first time the Kansas City Chiefs have been above 500. That probably tells you everything you need to know about this football team. Now, it is a good sign that they are continually looking better, right? You don't want it the other way around, that they're continually looking worse. You don't want to be one of these teams that peaks Week 3, seemingly what we see from the Dolphins every year, but not this year. Right, so this is certainly better than that. But I think that this team will still take some time in finding all of the things that they can do. A weird note here, this game went so well that it might keep some players from being voted to the Pro Bowl. Now, that's obviously worth taking, right? But it's just interesting because the defense played so little, and while the offense played well, the offense played till like the middle of the third quarter, and the ball was distributed so miraculously by Mahomes. No one had a great day, right? And that pulls me forward to this next point. This is as lopsided a game as you're going to see at the NFL level. Even though you're not looking at a game that was individually statistically impressive from almost any player. No one had a career day. In a game where the Kansas City Chiefs threw up the white flag around the middle of the third quarter. Basically, they played a half of football with their starters, and no one blew the doors off the barn. That was an 07 Patriots type of game. And we're going to look at this. This comes to us, I believe this is the Google stat sheet here. 96 yards. Now, there's a little bit of difference there. I've heard 95 from several sources, and this has 96 credited to the Raiders. Does it really matter? To 434 yards. More than 4 times as many yards for the Kansas City Chiefs as the Raiders. passing yards. 70 for the Raiders. 282, that's minus the sacks, for the Kansas City Chiefs. Over 4 times as many passing yards. But that's not even where it's worst. 26 rushing yards for the Raiders. A team that just spent a very high draft pick on a running back. 26 yards. 152 for the Chiefs, and they don't even run the ball, man. They don't even run the ball. They didn't run the ball, really, until the game was decided. That is more than a 5 times difference between the teams. First downs, a 10 times difference. An order of magnitude greater for the Kansas City Chiefs at 30 than the Raiders at 3. Third down efficiency, the Chiefs, 9 of 15. 66% of the time, they're getting it on third down. The Raiders, just 0 for 7. Just 0 for 7. 3 first downs, 0 for 7 on third downs. Total plays, the Raiders ran 30 plays of offense compared to the Kansas City Chiefs, 77. The Chiefs had as many first downs as the Raiders had offensive snaps. That is domination, the likes of which you do not see at the NFL level. That is domination that is almost like Alabama playing a Division III school. That is incredible. Still, only got 1 sack on the Raiders. So they were close a couple times, but only 1 sack. Only had 1 turnover with 1 fumble lost by the Raiders. This is a massive difference here. 17:52 time of possession, 42:08 time of possession. That is an incredible disparity. That is an incredible... that doesn't happen. Does not happen. Offensive notes. This is an interesting formation. I want to spend a minute here because I think there are a couple of things going on that are not immediately recognizable. So, on this play, Brashard Smith ran a little bit of a weird motion prior to the snap. That is not accidental. That is not going to be the last time we see that motion, should we see this play again. But that's not the only thing worth watching. So, look at Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt's stance is primed exactly where he went on this play. Right in there. Right? Let's see if I can do anything. There we go. Right here. That's where Kareem Hunt is lined up to go. Look at Brashard Smith's knees. That looks terrible. Can I erase things? That looks awful. There's no eraser here. I apologize for that. That is extremely inappropriate. And, okay, no, that's just worse. There's no eraser. I should have learned these tools before I got on here. Is this an eraser? Oh, yeah, there we go. All right. Brashard Smith's knees. Boy, that was an awful time to have this mishap here. But his knees are not the same as Kareem Hunt's. Kareem Hunt's knees are straight forward. They are meant for Kareem Hunt to step forward at the snap of the ball. The same way that if you look down here at the offensive line's knees, they are lined up straight forward. That is called the athletic position. It's the same thing when you're playing defense in basketball. It's the same thing as if you were playing volleyball, waiting for the ball to be served. Your hips are back, your knees are bent, and they are shoulder width apart, straight forward. Brashard Smith does not have his knees in that position. Brashard Smith's knees are closer together. This means that he is primed to run this way or to run this way, not to run this way. So, what we are seeing with Brashard Smith here is that he, just like that motion that he ran prior to the play, is there for a speed option some direction on this play. In which case, what happens with Kareem Hunt is he becomes a decoy. It's a fake, right? You have, at that point, Brashard Smith out here. You have, at that point, Brashard Smith looping around here. You have all sorts of options here, and when you look at where Brashard... So this is not accidental, right? This is coached. This is how they are told to line up in this play, in this formation. You have Brashard Smith, who is not... Brashard Smith is not facing line of scrimmage, obviously. He's facing this way. Then you have Noah Gray facing more or less the line of scrimmage. This means that should Kareem Hunt get the ball, he can go here, just like he did on this play, or he can come off tackle. If he comes off tackle, he has a blocker here in Noah Gray. So, all of that is true. What else is true is the fact that you still have Travis Kelce down here, getting absolutely lost on this play because of the wild formation going on in the background. Now, this is notable not because of the play that happened. The play that happened was just a dive play. That's all it was. But what can you do from this play? Well, you can play action. You got a play action here where you have Travis Kelce hitting a 5-yard out. You have Brashard Smith down here. You have Noah Gray up here. And let's see, 1, 2, 3. So this is probably Robert Tonyan right there. So you've got 3 probably. I don't know who that is. Tight ends on the play. Maybe Robert Tonyan goes out here. Now you have a wide open play from what looks very much like a formation from the 1950s. I mean, this looks like Notre Dame, 1943. And you have what can be, so this is made for power running, right? Very good wide receiver. Very good good receiving tight end. Very good receiving tight end. Extremely fast receiving running back. Those are 4 players that are a legitimate threat to catch the ball. And then you have Kareem Hunt, who has always been an underrated threat to catch the ball. Now, notably absent from this formation, Isaiah Pacheco. Not a threat to catch the ball, right? What does that tell you? Can catch, can catch, can catch, can catch, can catch. These are not always going to be runs. The Kansas City Chiefs have found themselves going much more often on 4th down. Going for it more often on 4th down. Because of that, it seems, they've done it all season, right? A couple times here and there, but in a couple games they were extremely aggressive on 4th down, right? We've never seen this formation. It appears that Andy Reid has spent some time and said, we're going to be more aggressive this year. We're going to be going for it on 4th down this year. We need a special formation, right? So, very, very interesting here from the offense. Next point here. This is the power of a Mahomes with a full wide receiver core. Now, this is still not Mahomes with a top 5 receiver talent. Rashee Rice, very good. Is he Justin Jefferson? Do you think he's one of the top 5 wide receivers in the league? Or do you think he can be one of the top 5 producing wide receivers in the league because of Mahomes? Very different things. You have a group with top 5 attributes in a few places. Obviously, Xavier Worthy's 40-time top 5 in the NFL. I believe Rashee Rice's vertical, top 5 in the NFL. So you have the speed height combination on Tyquan Thornton, probably top 5-ish if you're not counting weight. There's a couple big, like Bryce Wheaton Ford, right? Very big, very fast, not good at football. So there are those guys as well, but if you're taking maybe height and speed and catching ability into account, Tyquan Thornton's probably top 5. A top 5 type attribute, not top 5 overall. But, that said, absolutely destroyed the Raiders with no one going off. Absolutely destroyed the Raiders with, hey, everybody eating. This EGE nickname, that is rudimentary, if I can just say it. Okay? We need to call him something like Buffet, because everybody's got to eat. You can't just call him Everybody's Gotta Eat. You can't call him EGE or Iggy. You got to call him something related to it. And when people ask you why is his nickname Buffet, everybody's got to eat. That's how nicknames work. Anyway, off the high horse there. The running game is not a threat. It's not a threat. Nobody's afraid of it. It doesn't have to be. No one has to fear it. I still think the Chiefs should go 4 wide receivers and 1 tight end a lot more than they do. I've put out a couple videos the past couple of days talking about that point. Patrick Mahomes is a threat to run, but if you've got 4 wide receivers and a tight end on the field, no one is going to respect Patrick Mahomes' legs. If one of those wide receivers is Xavier Worthy, he is a threat to run. If one of those wide receivers is Rashee Rice, I think he will be a threat to run more than he was in his rookie season. Remember, his rookie season, they did it, I think, once, and it did not go well. They did not do it again. If one of those wide receivers is Hollywood Brown, I think he's a little bit of a threat to do that. So you do have a running threat without a running back on the field. But if those 4 wide receivers are Tyquan Thornton, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, and Rashee Rice, that 1 tight end is Travis Kelce, who cares if you're threatening to run the football? In the moment, no one respects it, and there are 6 players with their backs turned to Mahomes, he's going to pull a Steve Bono and run for a 76-yard touchdown. I hope he doesn't, because he's very bad at taking hits, but he'll do it. The number 4 thing here worth talking about with the offense in this game, it seems, the Chiefs just won 31-0. I mean, 31 points, that's not very many. They would have scored 50 if the Raiders had even put up 14. They would have scored 50 points. They were scoring at will. They were moving the ball at will. They were moving the ball seemingly at times when they wanted not to, because Hollywood Brown was carrying the football like a loaf of bread. It got slapped out, and Xavier Worthy said, all right, I'll fix it from here. I'll take that. We'll finish this thing. The fact that Patrick Mahomes had no fewer than 4 or 5 plays where a Raider had a hand on the ball but never threw an interception. They were scoring when at times it seemed they did not even want to. Also, this is like the next to last point here on the offense. Let me see real quick. Yeah, next to last point on the offense here. This is an extremely important game from a developmental standpoint. Brashard Smith has been one of these players that the Chiefs have been kind of teasing around the edges all season long. Brashard Smith had a lot of snaps in this game. He had 14 carries in this game, 39 yards, only a 2.8 yard per carry average, but the Raiders knew he was getting the ball towards the end of the game. He looked much more effective in that first half than in the second half. Worth remembering, Gardner Minshew threw 0 passes. Brashard Smith added 5 receptions. Brashard Smith added 5 receptions for 42 yards. That's an 81-yard total. This game, look, it's not like Madden, right? Where as long as you give the guy carries, he gets developmental points. It's not like that. But what it does is it lets the coaching staff have a better read on whether or not you need to work on re-signing Isaiah Pacheco. Spoiler alert, I don't think that's happening. I do not believe that will be happening. You see less and less dependence on Isaiah Pacheco as the season goes on. And I hate to put something negative out there in the wake of such a lopsided victory, but I think it's something that we do need to prepare for. The last thing on the offense here. 7 players had 20 receiving yards or more. 7 players. Now, you see a lot of times where there will be a team that 7 players catch the ball, but one of them's right at the line of scrimmage, one of them's a backup running back who caught a swing pass and ended up getting tackled for a 1-yard loss, things like that. 7 players had 20 yards or more for this team. Nobody had 100. Nobody had 152. Nobody had 200 yards receiving, nothing like that. 7 players had 20 yards or more. 9 players had at least 1 reception. Everybody will eat indeed. Speaking of deeds, one thing that has to be said here. I'm going to go cringe a little bit, but Juju Smith-Schuster. Dirty deeds done Juju. Dirty deeds done Juju. This guy is staying on the field and Juju talking boo-boo. Juju is talking so much crap and getting in so many people's heads while absolutely annihilating them in blocking. This is going to be something to watch moving forward. This is going to be an X factor moving forward. Getting in players' heads is going to be an X factor for Juju Smith-Schuster moving forward. Moving on to the defense. Not a lot of notes here, obviously. Hopefully the Omar Norman Lott news is not too bad. This game does, domination or not, this game does, Omar Norman Lott out long-term or not, prove that the Kansas City Chiefs might need to do something before the deadline on the defensive line. And might is a term used particularly loosely here. The Chiefs cannot buy a sack on the quarterback right now. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how all of a sudden Chris Jones disappeared basically completely, and don't give me this, oh, well, he had a sack today stuff. I don't care that he had a sack today. George Karlaftis has disappeared, and the one threat that the Chiefs have on the defensive line right now is Charles Omenihu, who started the season completely invisible. So probably, I believe they're going to add a name there. The interesting thing is Brett Veach likes to add players who make sense in more ways than one. When you look back at a lot of the moves he's made, D-Hop made sense in one way. The Kansas City Chiefs needed someone who could catch the ball. That's it, right? They got somebody who could catch the ball. Not a very Brett Veach move. Brett Veach likes to find a team that is probably fire-selling players because they have to figure something out long-term. This way, you can get a guy who's a little bit younger, maybe a little bit cheaper, maybe a guy who is more interesting in a niche situation. A guy who, maybe he's not going to be the best on 1st and 10, but on 3rd and 8, this guy's going to be gold, right? You don't have to really overpay for that. Those have been the Brett Veach type moves. So, while I do think it is likely that we see Brett Veach make a move, I think it's likely we probably see Brett Veach make a few moves. I don't think it's going to be one along the defensive line that we see coming. If you want if you want an unpopular opinion here, don't look for the Chiefs to acquire a running back. Because for the Chiefs to acquire a running back, they have to do something with one of their running backs. The Chiefs, right now, I don't think are going to carry 4 running backs. Just don't think they're going to do it. So what are you going to do? Are you going to cut Isaiah Pacheco? You're not cutting Brashard Smith. You're not cutting Kareem Hunt. That's your short yardage guy. The most expendable player in that backfield is Isaiah Pacheco. You're not cutting him. Do you think you could trade Isaiah Pacheco? No trade value. Never been a big guy, right? Never been statistically particularly effective in the last year of his contract, so you don't have future terms for whoever it is that you're trading him to. So you're not trading Isaiah Pacheco. I think the dark horse for a position the Chiefs might target, and I hate to say it, is offensive line. The Chiefs right now are without their first-round pick. They might be without their first and second-round pick, depending on how Omar Norman Lott shapes up, right? But the Chiefs are without their first-round pick who was solidifying that offensive line. It's a good thing they had Jalen Moore to come in. We saw yesterday 2 Kansas City Chiefs offensive linemen come out of the game. Kingsley Suamataia came out of the... Well, I don't know if he ever missed snaps, but he was shook up after a field goal. And then you had Trey Smith notably absent. That's 3 players right there. You do not want to get into the same position that you were in that alleged Super Bowl versus Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, like that ever happened. Tom Brady on the Buccaneers. Can you believe that? And that can happen very fast. So, say whatever the Justin Simmons stuff is long-term. Trey Smith or whoever, 2 other of the offensive linemen, miss time. If one of those offensive linemen isn't Jawan Taylor, then you still have one of your leaky linemen on the field with 3 backups. I think it is possible the Chiefs find themselves targeting an offensive lineman. And, well, why would you do that? What are you going to do there? If you're going to have to get rid of a running back to get a running back, aren't you going to have to get rid of an offensive lineman to take an offensive lineman? Yeah, I think they'll do that. I think they'll get rid of one of those names. Not the starters, but Hunter Nourzad. Could be Mike Caliendo if you're trading for a guy who could play center or could play guard and tackle. Anyway, the Chiefs' defense was on the field for 30 plays. Roughly half is of what is expected in a normal game, and the Chiefs had 30 first downs. This should revitalize the defense. The defense basically had a week off. The defense basically had a bye week. The defense basically had the equivalent of a Week 2 NFL preseason game in Week 7 of the NFL season. There should be dividends defensively from this game. The third and final thing we're talking about with this defense here is something that is mind-numbing. Cooper McDonald, UDFA linebacker Cooper McDonald, everybody was rooting for to make the team, has had a few defensive snaps. More than Jeffrey Bassa, who finally played this game, but Cooper McDonald was 3rd on the team in solo tackles this week. With 1. 1 solo tackle would get you tied for 3rd on the defense this week because there were 30 plays and McDuffie had like 6 tackles. Absolutely insane week. If we get a 3rd consecutive week of this type of play, this is going to be a very special season. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing that I talk about on this channel, so consider hitting the subscribe button to stick around for more, and as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.